Welcome to class. We're still on the series on social safeguarding, and in the last session we talked about physical abuse. And in physical abuse, we looked at the physical indicators and the behavioral indicators. In this session, briefly, we'll be looking at another form of abuse, which is emotional abuse. We'll talk about emotional abuse and also the physical and behavioral indicators that teachers and education managers should pay attention to so that their schools can be safe. Emotional abuse is the persistent emotional maltreatment of a child or vulnerable adult. It's also referred to as psychological abuse. Personally, as an education manager for years, I find this abuse extremely very, very important as it relates to child's well-being and the child's overall emotional state. For physical abuse, these are you could easily spot them because of a lot of more physical indicators that are obvious. But for emotional abuse, it causes a lot of harm, and if you are not a teacher or education manager that pays attention to details, you could just miss it. Emotional abuse can have severe and persistent adverse effects on a child's emotional development. Remember that when you're talking about the child development, you're looking at the cognitive, the psychomotive, and the affective domain. So if a child has suffered emotional abuse, it affects his emotional development. Emotional development has to do with the affective domain of that child. So we now have adults that are grown, that have suffered emotional abuse right from when they were young, and they are emotionally detached because they've suffered emotional abuse for years. Emotional abuse may involve deliberately telling a child or vulnerable adult that they are ugly, worthless, and unloved and inadequate. Many teachers and education managers are guilty of this. You hear words like fry pan head, dundee, dunce, you don't know anything, good for nothing. These words that some teachers and education managers use, they find funny at times and they feel it's just a joke, go a long way in affecting the emotional state of a child. Emotional abuse also includes not giving a child or vulnerable adult opportunity to express their views, deliberately silencing them or making fun of what they say or how they communicate or how they look. Education managers and teachers who make fun of learners with speech impairment, learners with learning difficulties, learners with any form of autism are damaging those children emotionally, and it is bad and should stop. In fact, they should not be teachers or education managers. In rounding up this session, the two indicators that education managers and teachers should pay attention to identify learners with that are suffering from emotional abuse. For physical indicator, is sudden speech disorder. A child that doesn't have disorder suddenly finds it difficult to speak in class or communicate well in class. You know that something is wrong. Wetting and soiling is a form of emotional, is an indicator that the child is suffering from emotional abuse. When the child is nervous to a state that he begins to wet himself and soil himself. Signs of mutilation also is a physical indicator for emotional abuse, and frequent vomiting too. For behavioral indicators for emotional abuse, you're looking at rocking like this, you're looking at thumbing, thumb sucking, you're looking at fear of change. The child is afraid to take risks or if there's any change in environment. Their chronics run away. They are poor peer relationship. They don't know how to communicate with their peers because of emotional abuse, and they have this attention-seeking behavior. You see learners in class that want teachers to pay them attention by trying to misbehave. It's a behavioral indicator for emotional abuse. If you want to learn more on this, on emotional abuse, how you could better identify learners with emotional abuse and improve your school. Subscribe to our channel, please, and invite us for trainings. We'll share more materials with you and also assist you in the overall improvement of your school. Once again, my name is Imokwele Okiran. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.